This video contains audio content only. There are no visual elements or images accompanying the audio. If you're expecting to see video footage, please note that this is an intentional audio-only presentation. We recommend listening to this content rather than watching the screen. Thank you for your understanding and enjoy the audio. Welcome to our deep dive into the fascinating world of the Boro people, one of Northeast India's most culturally rich and historically significant communities. Today, we're embarking on a journey that will take us from the foothills of the Himalayas to the banks of the Brahmaputra River, exploring a civilization that has maintained its unique identity through millennia while adapting to tremendous change. What makes this exploration particularly compelling is how the Boro story challenges our understanding of cultural resilience and adaptation in the modern world. Imagine standing in the lush Brahmaputra Valley, surrounded by the whispers of ancient traditions that have survived for over 5,000 years. The Boro people's story is not just about survival. It's about the extraordinary ability to preserve cultural essence while embracing change. From their ancient migration patterns to their modern-day struggles for identity, from their unique linguistic heritage to their rich spiritual traditions, the Boro narrative offers us profound insights into how cultural identity evolves and persists in our rapidly changing world. As we delve into this exploration, we'll discover how a community of over 1.4 million people has maintained its distinct identity while building bridges with other cultures. We'll explore why UNESCO considers their language significant enough to protect, how their traditional practices inform modern sustainability discussions, and why their cultural adaptations offer valuable lessons for other indigenous communities worldwide. What makes the Boro story particularly relevant today is how it illuminates crucial questions about cultural preservation in an age of globalization. How does a community maintain its unique identity while embracing modern progress? What can their experience teach us about sustainable cultural evolution? These questions become increasingly important as we witness rapid cultural changes worldwide. Let me begin with the first of our 10 explorations, taking us back to the ancient origins of the Boro people and their remarkable journey across the Himalayan landscape. 1. Ancient origins and migration. The story of the Boro people begins not in the lush valleys where they now reside, but high in the eastern Qinghai Plateau of Tibet, where their ancestors first developed their distinct cultural identity. Archaeological evidence tells us a fascinating tale of migration that began over 5,000 years ago, following the winding paths of the Hengduan Mountains down to the Brahmaputra River basin. This wasn't a simple journey of a few months or years. It was a multi-generational epic that shaped every aspect of who the Boro people would become. Consider the remarkable discovery made in 2018 when researchers uncovered ancient tools near modern-day Dimapur that matched perfectly with artifacts found in Sichuan, China. The shouldered celts and cord-marked grey pottery tell us a story of technological transfer across vast distances. These weren't just tools, they were the physical manifestations of knowledge passed down through generations, adapted to new environments as the people moved southward. The linguistic footprints left behind are equally fascinating. Today, when you travel through the Brahmaputra Valley, you'll encounter river names that reveal this ancient heritage. Di Bang, Di Hang, Di Ko, Di Hing. All these names carry the Boro prefix, di, or doi, meaning water. It's a linguistic map of their settlement pattern, marking their presence long before written records began. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the Boro's early presence comes from their agricultural practices. They developed a sophisticated irrigation system called dong that was perfectly adapted to the challenging terrain of the foothills. This system, still in use today in some areas, demonstrates an intimate understanding of the local geography that could only have been developed through centuries of trial and error. The arrival of the Indo-Aryan peoples around 1500 BCE provides us with our first written accounts of the Boro ancestors. In the Mahabharata, they are referred to as the Malecha tribes, a Sanskrit term meaning barbarians who don't follow Indo-Aryan culture. This derogatory term would ironically become a badge of pride, surviving in the name of one Boro subgroup, the Mek, who maintain their distinct identity to this day. By the 7th century CE, we see the emergence of the Malecha dynasty of Kamarupa, 655–900 CE, marking a pivotal moment in Boro history. Under King Salastamba, they established a kingdom that would challenge the Indo-Aryan Varman dynasty. Archaeological evidence from this period shows a fascinating blend of indigenous Boro practices with adopted Hindu elements, temple ruins that combine local architectural styles with Sanskrit inscriptions, suggesting a sophisticated cultural synthesis rather than simple assimilation. The movement patterns of the Boro people weren't just about physical migration, they were about cultural adaptation and resilience. Take, for example, the story of the Diori community, a Boro subgroup who maintained their traditional religious practices even as they moved eastward under pressure from the advancing Ahom kingdom in the 13th century. Today, you can still find Diori priests performing ancient rituals that directly link back to practices from their Tibetan origins. What's particularly fascinating is how these migration patterns created distinct subgroups while maintaining core cultural connections. The Boro-Garo people today are classified into three main branches: Western, Central, and Eastern, each with its own unique adaptations to local conditions while maintaining remarkable linguistic and cultural similarities. The Western branch, including the Garo people, moved into the hills of Meghalaya, developing terraced agriculture techniques that differed from their lowland cousins. The Central branch, including the modern Boro proper, maintained control of the fertile valley regions, while the Eastern branch, including the Diori and Sutia, adapted to life in the upper reaches of the Brahmaputra. In recent archaeological works, particularly exciting discoveries have been made in the Dima Haseo district, where researchers found evidence of ancient Boro settlements that predate the arrival of other groups in the region. Carbon dating of organic materials found at these sites suggests continuous habitation from around 5000 BCE, supporting the theory of the Boro as one of the earliest settlers in the region. The story of Boro migration continues to influence modern identity and politics. During the Bodoland movement of the late 20th century, historical migration patterns were used to support claims for territorial autonomy. The creation of the Bodoland territorial region in 2003 represented a modern recognition of ancient settlement patterns, demonstrating how historical migration routes continue to shape contemporary political geography. Today, you can still trace these ancient migration routes through living cultural practices. During the Biwaisagu festival, traditional songs recount the journey from Tibet, with specific landmarks and geographical features mentioned in lyrics passed down through generations. These aren't just songs, they're oral historical documents that have preserved the memory of migration across millennia. 2. Language and linguistic heritage. The Boro language stands as one of the most fascinating examples of linguistic survival and adaptation in South Asia. As a member of the Sino-Tibetan language family, specifically within the Boro-Garo group of Tibeto-Burman languages, it tells a remarkable story of cultural persistence and evolution. Today, when you walk through a Boro village, you might hear grandparents speaking pure Boro while their grandchildren seamlessly switch between Boro, Assamese, and English. A living testament to the language's adaptability. Let me share a striking example from a recent linguistic study conducted in 2019 in the village of Sonapur. There, researchers documented an elderly woman named Dharmeshwari Boro, aged 92, who could recite ancient agricultural prayers in a form of Boro that contained words traceable directly to Old Tibetan. Yet in the same household, her great-grandchildren were using modern Boro interspersed with technical terms for their schoolwork, demonstrating how the language has evolved while maintaining its core structure. The journey of the Boro script is particularly fascinating. Originally written in the Diodai script, evidence of which can still be seen in the ancient palace ruins of Dimapur, the language underwent multiple transformations. The community experimented with various writing systems, from Assamese to Roman, before finally settling on Devanagari in 1963. This decision wasn't just about writing, it was a statement of cultural identity and accessibility. The language carries unique features that reflect the Boro worldview. For instance, the verb system includes specific markers for evidentiality, whether the speaker directly witnessed an event or learned about it secondhand. This linguistic feature reveals a cultural emphasis on the importance of truth and direct experience. Consider the phrase, "Ang nwngkhouMWNTHAI jabe," I saw you eating rice, versus, "Ang nwngkhouMWNTHAI jadong," I heard you ate rice. a distinction that many modern languages don't make. The resilience of Boro language is evident in its vocabulary for natural phenomena. The language contains over 20 different words for various types of bamboo, each with specific uses and characteristics. This rich botanical vocabulary reflects the deep connection between language and environmental knowledge. For example, wathap specifically refers to bamboo suitable for making flutes, while wathone designates bamboo ideal for house construction. One of the most remarkable aspects of Boro language is its ability to create new words for modern concepts while maintaining its linguistic integrity. When faced with technological terms, rather than simply borrowing English words, the community often creates new compounds from existing Boro roots. For instance, computer became tantalize, literally meaning counting machine, demonstrating the language's adaptability to modern needs. The influence of Boro on other regional languages is substantial. In a recent study of place names in northeast India, over 60% of river names and 40% of village names in Assam showed Boro linguistic origins. This includes major geographical features like the Dibru River, from Boro, di, meaning water, and bru, meaning head, and the Dying River, water clear. The language has also preserved ancient cultural practices through its vocabulary. Wedding ceremonies still use specific terms that linguists have traced back over 1,000 years. During a traditional Boro wedding, the phrase, Kwanaha GW Dan, new household, carries the same pronunciation and meaning as it did centuries ago, as evidenced by ancient manuscripts found in monastery collections. Modern efforts to preserve the language have taken innovative forms. In 2018, a group of young Boro professionals developed a mobile app called Learn Boro that has gained over 50,000 users. The app combines traditional teaching methods with modern technology, including audio recordings of elderly speakers telling traditional stories. The language's official recognition as one of India's scheduled languages in 2003 marked a crucial milestone. This status brought new opportunities and challenges. Schools now teach Boro as a first language up to university level, but this formalization has led to interesting debates about standardization versus preserving local dialects. The relationship between Boro and its sister languages reveals fascinating patterns of historical interaction. For instance, the Dimasa language, spoken by a related group, shares about 60% of its basic vocabulary with Boro but has developed distinct grammatical features due to geographical separation. This linguistic divergence helps historians track ancient migration patterns and cultural exchanges. A unique feature of Boro linguistic culture is its tradition of kontai, specialized poetic language used in religious ceremonies. This sacred vocabulary, passed down through generations of priests, contains words and grammatical structures not used in everyday speech, providing a window into ancient forms of the language. The future of Boro language presents both opportunities and challenges. While official recognition and modern technology support its preservation, urbanization and globalization create new pressures. However, innovative programs like the Mother Tongue Friday initiative in Boro schools, where everyone from students to administrators must speak only Boro, show creative approaches to language preservation. 3. Cultural kinship and relations. The intricate web of relationships between the Boro people and other ethnic groups in northeast India presents one of the most complex and fascinating examples of cultural interconnection in South Asia. The Boro Kachari family, which includes numerous tribes and subgroups, forms a tapestry of shared traditions while maintaining distinct identities. This network of cultural kinship extends far beyond simple linguistic connections, encompassing shared mythologies, agricultural practices, and social customs. Let me share a remarkable example from the annual Bathau Festival in 2019. In the village of Udalguri, representatives from 12 different Boro-related communities gathered to perform their traditional dances. What made this event extraordinary was how each group's dance, while distinct, contained core movements that anthropologists have traced to ancient shared origins. The Garo delegates performed their Wangala dance while the Dimasa showcased their Bidima, seemingly different at first glance but sharing fundamental rhythmic patterns that speak to their common ancestry. The relationship between the Boro and the Koch kingdom provides a fascinating historical example of cultural fusion. When the Koch dynasty rose to power in the 16th century, they created a unique cultural zone north of the Gohan Kamal Ali Road, known as the Duars. This region became a sanctuary for non-Brahmanical cultures, where Boro traditions could flourish alongside other indigenous practices. Today, you can still find villages in this area where Koch and Boro customs have blended so seamlessly that locals often can't distinguish their original sources. Consider the story of the Mek community, a subgroup of the Boro people living along the Indo-Bhutan border. Their unique position has made them cultural mediators between Himalayan and plain civilizations for centuries. During the annual Bhutan-India border trade fair, Mek traders still use traditional systems of measurement and exchange that combine Boro, Bhutanese, and Bengali elements, demonstrating how cultural kinship can facilitate economic relationships. The shared textile traditions among Boro-related groups reveal deep cultural connections. The Rabba community's pankri design bears striking similarities to the Boro agar patterns, yet each has evolved distinct characteristics. A master weaver named Melati Boro, who learned both traditions, explains how the basic geometric patterns reflect shared ancient beliefs about the structure of the universe, while the variations tell the story of each community's unique journey. Religious practices provide another window into these cultural relationships. The Bathao religion, primarily associated with the Boro, finds echoes in the spiritual practices of related groups. The Tiwa people, for example, maintain a similar reverence for the Siju, euphorbia, plant, though their rituals have evolved differently. During joint ceremonies, participants often discover shared sacred words and gestures, pointing to ancient common origins. The relationship between the Boro and Dimasa people illustrates how political separation can lead to cultural divergence while maintaining fundamental connections. When the Dimasa established their kingdom in the Dima Haseo region after the 13th century Ahom invasion, they developed distinct cultural practices. Yet, during the annual Busu festival, Dimasa and Boro communities still perform nearly identical harvest rituals, preserving evidence of their shared agricultural heritage. Modern political movements have both strengthened and strained these cultural relationships. The formation of the Bodoland Territorial Region in 2003 created new dynamics. Some related groups, like the Rabba and Garo, have sought similar autonomous arrangements, while others have chosen to emphasize their connections to the larger Boro community. This has led to fascinating discussions about cultural identity and political alignment. The sharing of traditional knowledge systems provides compelling evidence of these relationships. In 2015, researchers documented how traditional healing practices were remarkably similar among Boro, Garo, and Rabba communities. The use of specific medicinal plants and treatment methods suggested centuries of shared knowledge transmission, even as each group developed its own specializations. Marriage customs reveal another layer of these relationships. The tradition of hafeo, cross-cousin marriage, exists among several Boro-related groups, though each has adapted it differently. The Sanawal Kachari maintain stricter rules about such marriages, while the Boro proper have become more flexible, yet the basic concept persists across communities. Agricultural cooperation has historically strengthened these bonds. The traditional, Gathalo, system of cooperative farming, though called by different names, exists among most Boro-related groups. In the Udalguri district, you can still find mixed villages where families from different communities participate in shared agricultural activities using methods passed down through generations. The impact of modernization on these relationships presents both challenges and opportunities. Urban migration has created new contexts for cultural interaction. In cities like Guwahati, cultural associations often collaborate on events that celebrate their shared heritage while acknowledging their distinct identities. The annual Northeast Cultural Festival has become a platform for exploring these complex relationships through performances, exhibitions, and discussions. 4. Religious evolution and spiritual life. The spiritual journey of the Boro people represents one of the most fascinating examples of religious evolution in South Asia, where ancient animistic beliefs have intertwined with newer religious influences while maintaining their distinctive character. At the heart of traditional Boro spirituality lies Bathaoism, a sophisticated belief system that predates the arrival of Hinduism and Christianity in the region. But what makes this spiritual tradition truly remarkable is its continued vitality and adaptation in the modern world. Let me share a powerful example from a recent Bathao ceremony I learned about in the village of Kokrajhar. In 2021, during a severe drought, the community gathered around their sacred Siju plant, Euphorbia, for the traditional Karai Puja. The ceremony combined ancient Bathao rituals with elements of modern environmental awareness. The village priest, Bandana Basumatari, explained how the five-fold nature of their faith, represented by the five elements of land, water, air, fire, and ether, perfectly aligned with contemporary ecological concerns. The foundation of Bathao spirituality rests on the concept of Aham Guru, or the Supreme Being, who exists formlessly in the Great Void. According to Bathao philosophy, when Aham Guru desired to experience life in physical form, the universe was created. This creation story is enacted during major festivals through elaborate dance performances called Bagurumba, where dancers move in patterns representing the five elements of creation. One of the most striking aspects of Boro spiritual practice is the role of the Siju plant. Every traditional Boro household maintains a Siju plant in their courtyard, surrounded by a bamboo fence with exactly 18 rings, each representing a specific aspect of spiritual life. In 2018, a comprehensive study documented how these Siju gardens serve as living repositories of traditional ecological knowledge, with each ring corresponding to specific medicinal plants and seasonal rituals. The influence of Hinduism on Boro spirituality presents a fascinating case of religious adaptation. The Hun Jagya ceremony, for instance, combines traditional Bathao fire worship with Hindu ritualistic elements. During these ceremonies, which can last up to 7 days, participants maintain specific dietary restrictions and perform elaborate fire rituals. However, unlike mainstream Hinduism, the Boro version typically rejects caste distinctions and maintains its unique spiritual hierarchy. Christianity's arrival among the Boro people in the late 19th century introduced new dynamics to their spiritual landscape. Today, approximately 10% of Boro people identify as Christian, primarily Baptist. The story of how Christian hymns were adapted to traditional Boro musical scales illustrates this cultural synthesis. In the Bodo Baptist Convention, you can hear ancient Boro melodies carrying Christian lyrics, creating a unique form of worship that bridges both traditions. The role of women in Boro spiritual life deserves special attention. Unlike many other religious traditions, Bathaoism traditionally accorded significant spiritual authority to women. The position of Dudini, a female spiritual leader who leads certain rituals and acts as a medium between the community and spiritual forces, remains important today. During the annual Karai festival, the Dudini enters a trance state and performs sacred dances that are believed to communicate with ancestral spirits. Modern challenges to traditional spirituality have led to interesting adaptations. The Brahma movement, started by Kalacharan Brahma in the early 20th century, attempted to reform Bathaoism by incorporating elements of modern education while preserving core spiritual principles. This movement created the Brahma Dharma, which continues to influence Boro spiritual life today, particularly in urban areas. The preservation of sacred groves, known as tantalize, reveals how spiritual beliefs shape environmental conservation. These groves, considered dwelling places of guardian spirits, have protected significant patches of forest across the Boro region. A recent environmental study found that these sacred groves harbor numerous rare species and serve as crucial biodiversity hotspots. Ritual ceremonies continue to mark important life transitions in Boro society. The Fangsla ceremony, performed when a child receives their first haircut, involves elaborate rituals that connect the child to both the natural and spiritual worlds. The ceremony requires specific preparations that begin months in advance, including the cultivation of special ritual plants and the creation of sacred objects from locally sourced materials. The relationship between spiritual practice and agricultural life remains strong. The Mainau ceremony, performed before the spring planting, combines prayers to earth spirits with practical agricultural knowledge passed down through generations. During this ceremony, traditional seeds are blessed and distributed, maintaining both spiritual traditions and agricultural biodiversity. Recent years have seen interesting developments in how younger generations engage with traditional spirituality. Social media platforms now feature young Boro spiritual leaders explaining ancient concepts in modern terms. One popular TikTok account run by a young Bathao priest has gained over 100,000 followers by explaining traditional practices and their relevance to contemporary life. 5. Traditional arts and expression. The artistic traditions of the Boro people represent one of the most vibrant and dynamic aspects of their cultural heritage. What makes their artistic expression particularly fascinating is how it seamlessly integrates daily life, spiritual beliefs, and historical narratives into a cohesive artistic language. From the rhythmic movements of the Bagurumba dance to the complex musical compositions played on the saifung, traditional flute, Boro arts tell stories of both ancient wisdom and contemporary resilience. Let me share a remarkable story from the 2022 Biwaisagu festival in Kokrajar. During this celebration, 95-year-old Dharani Boro performed a nearly forgotten version of the Bagurumba dance that hadn't been seen in public for over 50 years. Her performance, which included movements mimicking the flight patterns of local birds and the flow of the Brahmaputra River, inspired a group of young dancers to document and revive these ancient choreographic elements. This intergenerational transmission of artistic knowledge exemplifies how traditional arts remain vital and evolving. The Bagurumba dance itself deserves special attention. Unlike many classical Indian dance forms, Bagurumba evolved from agricultural movements and natural observations. Dancers perform in a circular formation, their movements reflecting various aspects of farming life, from sowing seeds to harvesting crops. The dance also incorporates elements of butterfly movements, leading to its nickname, the butterfly dance. During traditional performances, women wear Dokhona, traditional dress, with specific color combinations that represent different seasons and agricultural phases. Musical traditions in Boro culture are equally rich and complex. The kham, a traditional drum made from jackfruit wood and goatskin, requires a highly specialized manufacturing process that takes several months. Master drummer Mongol Basumatary, who has been making khams for over 40 years, explains that each drum must be awakened through a specific ritual before it can be used in performances. The wood must be harvested during specific lunar phases, and the skin must come from a black goat, requirements that reflect deep connections between artistic practice and spiritual beliefs. The Serja, a bowed instrument similar to a violin, plays a crucial role in Boro musical tradition. What makes this instrument unique is its construction using local materials. The resonating chamber is made from a specific type of gourd that grows only in certain areas of the Brahmaputra Valley. The strings, traditionally made from horsehair, are now often crafted from synthetic materials, demonstrating how traditional arts adapt to modern circumstances while maintaining their essential character. Boro vocal music includes several distinct genres, each serving specific social and spiritual functions. The Zilni Muthwi genre, for example, consists of narrative songs that preserve historical events and genealogies. These songs can last several hours and require remarkable memorization skills from the performers. In 2019, ethnomusicologists recorded over 200 hours of these traditional songs, discovering that they contain detailed information about historical migrations, climate patterns, and social changes spanning several centuries. The tradition of Karai performances represents perhaps the most complex integration of various art forms. These ritual performances combine dance, music, poetry, and dramatic elements in a continuous performance that can last up to 7 days. During the Karai, performers enter trance states while acting out ancient myths and historical events. The performance requires precise coordination between musicians, dancers, and ritual specialists, each playing specific roles that have been passed down through generations. Modern innovations in traditional arts have created exciting new forms of expression. Young Boro artists like Ranji de Brahma have begun incorporating traditional musical elements into contemporary compositions, creating what she calls neo-Boro music. Her recent album, which combines traditional saifung melodies with electronic beats, has gained popularity among both young and old listeners, demonstrating how traditional arts can evolve while maintaining their cultural essence. The role of textiles in Boro artistic expression cannot be overstated. Traditional weaving patterns contain complex symbolic meanings that tell stories of community history and spiritual beliefs. The agar design system used in traditional textiles includes over 100 distinct patterns, each with specific meanings and appropriate uses. Master weaver Ribati Basumatari maintains a detailed journal of these patterns, ensuring that their meanings and techniques are preserved for future generations. Performance spaces in Boro culture also reflect unique artistic traditions. The Thonga community performance area is designed according to specific geometric principles that enhance acoustic properties and facilitate audience participation. These spaces are typically surrounded by specific types of trees and plants that are believed to enhance the spiritual power of performances. Recent years have seen interesting developments in how traditional arts are taught and preserved. The establishment of the Bodo Sahitya Sabha's Department of Traditional Arts has created formal structures for teaching ancient art forms. However, the most effective transmission still occurs through traditional master-apprentice relationships, where students live with and learn from established artists over several years. Digital technology has begun playing an increasing role in preserving and promoting Boro arts. A recent project uses 3D scanning to document traditional musical instruments and create detailed digital archives of their construction methods. Virtual reality applications are being developed to teach traditional dance movements to young performers, though many elders express concern about maintaining the spiritual aspects of artistic practice in digital formats. 6. Traditional dress and identity. The traditional dress of the Boro people serves as more than mere clothing. It's a living canvas that tells stories of cultural identity, social status, and historical memory. The intricate relationship between clothing and identity becomes particularly fascinating when we examine how traditional Boro dress has adapted to modern times while maintaining its cultural significance. Each piece of clothing carries within its threads centuries of tradition, technical innovation, and social meaning. Let me share a powerful example from a recent wedding in Udalguri district. The bride, a young software engineer working in Bangalore, chose to wear a traditional Dokhona rather than a modern wedding dress. What made this choice particularly interesting was how she worked with local weavers to incorporate subtle contemporary elements while maintaining traditional patterns. The Dokhona featured the traditional high-fagar, mountain design, but used a modern color palette that reflected her professional identity. This fusion sparked intense discussions in the community about tradition and modernity in Boro dress. The Dokhona, the traditional dress worn by Boro women, deserves special attention for its complexity and significance. A properly made Dokhona requires approximately 15 to 20 days of dedicated weaving work. The standard dimensions are typically 3 meters in length and 1.5 meters in width, though these can vary based on the wearer's build. What makes this garment particularly remarkable is its versatility. It can be draped in different ways for various occasions, with each style carrying specific social meanings. Consider the story of master weaver Anjali Brahma, who has been creating Dokhonas for over 5 decades. She maintains a detailed notebook of over 100 traditional agar design patterns, each with its own name and significance. In 2020, when researchers documented her work, they discovered that many of these patterns contained encoded information about historical events, family lineages, and even agricultural techniques. For example, the Dinkia Mohor pattern, which resembles fern leaves, traditionally indicated that the wearer's family had knowledge of medicinal plants. The Aronai, a small scarf used by both men and women, carries particularly fascinating historical significance. During times of conflict, Boro women would weave Aronai through the night to present to warriors heading into battle. These scarves were believed to carry protective powers, and their patterns often contained coded messages. Today, the Aronai remains an important symbol of respect and honor, used in ceremonies and given as gifts to distinguished guests. The evolution of male traditional dress, particularly the gamsha, reflects changing social dynamics while maintaining cultural integrity. The traditional gamsha, approximately 2 meters in length and 1.2 meters in width, was historically worn alone for men's daily activities. Today, while often paired with modern clothing, specific rules still govern its use in religious and ceremonial contexts. During the annual Biwaizagu festival, for example, men must wear the gamsha in the traditional style, regardless of their usual dress preferences. Color symbolism in Boro traditional dress reveals deep connections to natural and spiritual beliefs. The preference for GWMW, yellow, guathang, green, and bathogang, parrot feather green, isn't merely aesthetic. These colors represent specific aspects of Bathou's spiritual beliefs. Master dyer Mano Basumatary still creates these colors using traditional natural dyes, a process that takes several weeks and requires precise knowledge of local plants and minerals. The role of traditional dress in modern Boro society has evolved in fascinating ways. Young designers like Ranjita Narsari are creating contemporary interpretations of traditional designs for global markets. Her fashion line, which debuted in 2021, uses traditional weaving techniques and patterns but applies them to modern silhouettes. This has sparked interesting debates about cultural authenticity and adaptation. The preparation of traditional dress materials involves complex social networks and traditional knowledge systems. The cultivation of specific cotton varieties, the breeding of silkworms for airy silk, and the gathering of natural dye materials all require coordinated community effort. In the village of de Burgown, families still maintain traditional cotton plots specifically for ceremonial garments, following agricultural practices passed down through generations. Wedding attire in Boro culture deserves special mention for its complexity and significance. The traditional bridal Dokhona, known as Dokhona Thayasi, must be either red or yellow and completely free of designs, Matha Dokhona. This simplicity is believed to represent the bride's pure intentions and new beginnings. The process of creating a Dokhona Thayasi involves specific rituals at every stage, from selecting the cotton to the final weaving. Recent years have seen interesting developments in how traditional dress is preserved and promoted. The establishment of weaving cooperatives has helped maintain traditional techniques while providing economic opportunities. The Boro Weaves Cooperative in Kokrajhar, for example, now employs over 200 weavers who create traditional garments using both ancient and modern techniques. Digital documentation of traditional dress patterns has become increasingly important. A recent project by the Bodo Sahitya Sabha has created a digital database of traditional patterns and their meanings, ensuring that this knowledge isn't lost as older generations pass away. However, many master weavers insist that certain aspects of traditional dress making can only be learned through direct apprenticeship. 7. Social structure and community life. The social structure of Boro society presents a fascinating example of how traditional community organizations adapt to modern challenges while maintaining their essential character. Unlike the rigid hierarchical systems found in many South Asian societies, Boro's social structure historically emphasized flexibility and communal decision-making, creating a unique model of community organization that continues to influence their contemporary life. Let me share a remarkable example from the village of Dupguri in 2021. When facing a crisis of water management during an unusually dry season, the village didn't turn to government authorities but instead revived their traditional Gonkoro system, a community-based water management approach where decisions are made through consensus in open forums. What made this particularly interesting was how young, educated professionals returning to the village due to COVID-19 work-from-home policies actively participated in this traditional system, bringing modern technical knowledge to ancient community practices. The basic unit of Boro social organization, the extended family or Nuhor, operates differently from typical nuclear families. A traditional Nuhor might include 3 or 4 generations living together, but what makes it unique is its fluid membership structure. Consider the story of the Basumatary family in Kokrajhar, where the household regularly expands to include distant relatives studying or working nearby, maintaining a traditional practice of flexible family boundaries that helps community members navigate modern economic challenges. Marriage customs in Boro society reflect both traditional values and modern adaptations. The practice of Konayao Hatarnai, marriage by mutual consent, has historically been more common than arranged marriages, marking a significant difference from many other South Asian communities. In recent years, this tradition has evolved to accommodate modern dating practices while maintaining cultural elements. For instance, in 2020, a couple in Udalguri organized their wedding through a dating app but incorporated all traditional ritual elements, including the essential Wudan Gwkha ceremony where both families exchange traditional items. The role of women in Boro society deserves special attention. Unlike many traditional societies, Boro women historically enjoyed significant economic and social freedom. Women's ownership rights to property were traditionally protected, and they played crucial roles in economic activities. The Mahila Samiti, women's committees, in Boro villages often control community resources and make key decisions about resource allocation. In the village of Bengbari, the local Mahila Samiti successfully manages a microfinance program that combines traditional collective responsibility with modern banking practices. Community decision-making follows a unique pattern through the institution of AFAD, a traditional council system that operates at various levels. What makes the AFAD system particularly interesting is its emphasis on consensus rather than majority rule. During a recent land dispute in Chirang district, the AFAD spent 3 months reaching a solution that satisfied all parties, demonstrating how traditional conflict resolution mechanisms can effectively address modern challenges. The practice of Madai, or community labor exchange, continues to play a vital role in Boro society. During harvest season, families still participate in rotating labor groups, helping each other with agricultural tasks. This system has evolved to include modern activities. For example, in some villages, Madai groups now help members set up small businesses or prepare for competitive examinations, showing how traditional cooperative systems adapt to contemporary needs. Age-grade organizations remain important in Boro social structure. The Biwism, youth organization, in each village takes responsibility for organizing festivals, maintaining community spaces, and helping during emergencies. In 2019, when floods hit the Barpada district, local Biwism groups coordinated rescue and relief efforts more effectively than many official agencies, demonstrating the continued relevance of traditional youth organizations. The relationship between different professional groups within Boro society reveals interesting patterns of social organization. Traditional occupational groups like weavers, blacksmiths, and priests maintain distinct identities while being fully integrated into the community. The Fanthi, artisan groups, operate as both professional guilds and social support networks. For instance, the Weavers' Fanthi in Kokrajhar not only maintains traditional craft knowledge but also provides members with access to modern markets and technology. Education and knowledge transmission in Boro society follow unique patterns. Traditional knowledge is passed down through both formal and informal channels. The institution of Boroni Bainane, evening gatherings, continues in many villages, where elders share traditional knowledge through stories and songs. These sessions now often include discussions of contemporary issues, creating a bridge between traditional wisdom and modern challenges. Religious and social life remain closely intertwined in Boro communities. The Bathout temple grounds serve not just as religious spaces but as community centers where important decisions are made and social bonds are strengthened. During the weekly Gwithar Din, Community Day, villages gather at these spaces to discuss community issues, plan future activities, and resolve conflicts. Recent years have seen interesting developments in how Boro communities maintain social cohesion in urban settings. In cities like Guwahati and Delhi, Boro cultural associations have evolved beyond their traditional roles to become important support networks for urban migrants. These associations help members navigate modern urban life while maintaining connections to traditional social structures. 8. Cultural evolution and modern identity. The evolution of Boro cultural identity in the modern era presents one of the most compelling stories of how traditional societies navigate contemporary challenges while maintaining their core values. This transformation isn't simply about preserving old ways or wholly embracing new ones. It's about creating a dynamic synthesis that allows the community to thrive in changing times while keeping its distinctive character intact. Let me share a revealing incident from 2023 in Kokrajhar. During the annual Biwisagu festival, a group of young Boro tech professionals organized a digital Biwisagu that live-streamed traditional ceremonies worldwide. What made this event particularly significant was how it combined ancient rituals with modern technology. Elderly priests performed traditional blessings while young community members explained the significance of each ritual in real time through social media. The event reached over 50,000 viewers globally, including many young Boros working in cities like Bangalore and Singapore. Education has become a crucial battlefield for cultural evolution. Consider the story of the Bodo Medium School in Udalguri, where teachers developed an innovative curriculum that teaches modern subjects in the Boro language. Mathematics and science are taught using traditional Boro counting systems and indigenous knowledge about local flora and fauna. This approach has produced remarkable results. Students demonstrate strong academic performance while maintaining deep connections to their cultural heritage. The transformation of traditional arts in urban settings reveals fascinating adaptations. In 2022, a group of Boro musicians in Delhi formed the Neo-Boro Collective, combining traditional instruments like the saifung and kham with electronic music. Their performances at major festivals have attracted significant attention, but what's most interesting is how they maintain strict adherence to traditional musical rules while experimenting with modern sounds. As one member explained, "We're not changing our music, we're expanding its vocabulary." Language usage among young Boros demonstrates complex patterns of cultural negotiation. A recent sociolinguistic study in Guwahati found that young professionals often use Boro language in innovative ways, creating new words for technical concepts using traditional root words rather than simply borrowing English terms. For example, smartphone became Go Tom Suknai, wisdom carrier, reflecting how language can evolve while maintaining its cultural integrity. The role of social media in shaping modern Boro identity deserves special attention. Popular Boro YouTubers and Instagram influencers have emerged as important cultural interpreters. Take the case of RWMWI Basumatary, whose channel, Modern Boro Life, has over 200,000 subscribers. She creates content that explains traditional practices to young audiences while showing how these traditions can be maintained in contemporary urban life. Marriage customs have undergone significant transformation while retaining core cultural elements. Modern Boro weddings often combine traditional ceremonies with contemporary celebrations. In a notable 2021 wedding in Guwahati, the couple maintained all traditional rituals but incorporated environmentally conscious practices, replacing plastic decorations with traditional bamboo craft and using digital invitations featuring traditional Boro designs. The evolution of traditional dress in professional settings shows interesting adaptations. Many young Boro professionals now wear modified versions of traditional attire in corporate settings. A group of Boro fashion designers has created a line of office-appropriate clothing incorporating traditional agar patterns and weaving techniques. This corporate Boro style has gained popularity among young professionals seeking to maintain cultural identity in modern workplaces. Political awareness and cultural identity have become increasingly intertwined. The creation of the Bodoland Territorial Region in 2003 led to new expressions of cultural identity. Young Boros increasingly engage in political discourse while emphasizing cultural preservation. The annual Youth Parliament in Kokrajhar, where young people discuss community issues using traditional consensus-building methods, exemplifies this blend of modern political awareness and traditional governance practices. Economic adaptations reveal innovative approaches to maintaining cultural practices. Traditional crafts are being reimagined for modern markets. Traditional Boro weaving techniques are now used to create fashionable accessories for urban consumers. The Boro Craft Collective in Chirang has successfully marketed traditional products through e-commerce platforms while maintaining traditional production methods. The impact of return migration during the COVID-19 pandemic created unexpected opportunities for cultural revival. Many young professionals returning to their villages initiated projects combining traditional knowledge with modern expertise. In Baksa district, a group of IT professionals created a digital archive of traditional agricultural practices, making this knowledge accessible to younger generations through mobile apps. Religious practices have also evolved to accommodate modern life while maintaining spiritual authenticity. Urban Bathao temples now offer online prayer services, and some priests use social media to explain traditional rituals to younger audiences. However, core spiritual practices remain strictly traditional, demonstrating how communities can adapt to modern needs while preserving essential cultural elements. Digital technology has become a crucial tool for cultural preservation. The Digital Boro Heritage Project, launched in 2020, uses advanced technology to document traditional practices, create virtual museums, and develop language learning apps. This project exemplifies how modern tools can serve traditional cultural preservation goals. 9. Food culture and traditions. The culinary heritage of the Boro people represents one of the most distinctive and well-preserved aspects of their cultural identity. What makes Boro food culture particularly fascinating is how it combines ancient preservation techniques, spiritual beliefs, and communal practices while adapting to modern dietary needs and environmental challenges. Let me share a compelling story from a recent food festival in Kokrajhar in 2023. A group of Boro grandmothers organized a knowledge transfer feast, where they demonstrated traditional cooking techniques to younger generations. What made this event remarkable was the documentation of over 50 dishes that were at risk of being forgotten, including the complex preparation of onla, a traditional gravy made from rice powder and bamboo shoots that requires a specific fermentation process passed down through generations. The preparation of oma bedar, pork preparation, perfectly illustrates the sophistication of traditional Boro cuisine. There are at least 3 distinct traditional methods of preparing pork, each with its own cultural significance. The most intriguing is oma kaji, where the meat is prepared with its own blood in a specific ritual manner. Master cook Dharmendra Brahma explains that this technique, which requires precise timing and temperature control, was developed centuries ago to maximize the preservation of meat in a pre-refrigeration era. The role of rice beer, jugishi, in Boro culture extends far beyond mere consumption. The production process involves complex social networks and traditional knowledge systems. The creation of angkur, starter cakes, for fermentation requires specific herbs, dapat tita, dan, senekuthi, agara, that must be gathered at particular times of the year. Each family traditionally maintains their own unique recipe, passed down through generations. In 2021, researchers documented over 30 distinct varieties of jugishi, each with unique flavors and medicinal properties. Seasonal food practices reveal deep connections between diet and traditional ecological knowledge. The Boro calendar traditionally recognizes 6 seasons rather than 4, with specific foods associated with each period. During Boro springtime, for example, the consumption of narzi, bitter gravy made from jute leaves, is considered essential for health. This dish, which requires careful preparation to remove excess bitterness while maintaining medicinal properties, demonstrates how traditional food practices encode important nutritional wisdom. Communal cooking traditions play a crucial role in maintaining social bonds. The practice of Gudan Gwkha, community feast, continues to be important in modern Boro society. During these events, specific roles are assigned based on traditional knowledge and expertise. What's particularly interesting is how these roles have adapted to modern circumstances. In recent community feasts, professional chefs working in cities often return to their villages to learn traditional techniques from community elders. The preservation of wild food knowledge represents another fascinating aspect of Boro food culture. Traditional foragers maintain detailed knowledge of edible plants, mushrooms, and insects. In 2020, a study documented over 100 species of edible wild plants still regularly collected and consumed in Boro communities. This knowledge has gained renewed importance in discussions about food security and biodiversity conservation. Modern adaptations of traditional dishes show interesting innovations. Young Boro chefs in urban areas have begun creating fusion dishes that maintain traditional flavors while appealing to contemporary tastes. For example, the traditional nafam, fermented fish preparation, has been adapted into a modern condiment that's gaining popularity in urban restaurants. However, these innovations strictly follow traditional fermentation principles. The relationship between food and spiritual practices remains strong in Boro culture. During the Karai festival, specific dishes must be prepared according to ancient recipes using precise quantities of ingredients. The position of cooking fires, the order of food preparation, and even the direction in which ingredients are stirred carry spiritual significance. These practices continue even in modern settings, though sometimes adapted for contemporary kitchens. Agricultural traditions closely tied to food culture show remarkable resilience. The practice of maintaining community seed banks for traditional rice varieties continues in many villages. These banks preserve not just genetic diversity but also traditional knowledge about cooking methods specific to each variety. The recent revival of heritage rice varieties has led to interesting collaborations between traditional farmers and modern agricultural scientists. The role of bamboo in Boro cuisine deserves special attention. Beyond its use in traditional cooking utensils, bamboo shoots form a crucial ingredient in many dishes. The process of identifying, harvesting, and preparing different varieties of bamboo shoots requires extensive traditional knowledge. Recent efforts to document this knowledge have revealed sophisticated understanding of bamboo ecology and sustainable harvesting practices. Food preservation techniques demonstrate remarkable sophistication. The traditional method of smoking meat, called tantalize, involves specific types of wood that must be burned in a particular sequence to achieve the desired flavor and preservation effect. These techniques are now being studied by food scientists interested in natural preservation methods. The transmission of culinary knowledge in modern contexts shows interesting adaptations. While traditional learning through direct observation and practice continues, many communities now maintain digital archives of recipes and techniques. Social media platforms have become important vehicles for sharing traditional food knowledge, with dedicated groups discussing traditional ingredients and preparation methods. 10. Contemporary challenges and future. The Boro people stand at a fascinating crossroads of tradition and modernity, facing unique challenges while discovering innovative ways to preserve and evolve their cultural heritage. This final exploration reveals how one of Northeast India's most significant communities navigates the complexities of the 21st century while maintaining its distinctive identity. Let me share a powerful recent example from 2023. In the village of Gorang, a group of young Boro professionals launched the Digital Heritage Initiative, using blockchain technology to create an immutable record of traditional knowledge. What made this project particularly remarkable was how it combined ancient wisdom with cutting-edge technology. Elderly knowledge holders recorded traditional practices while young tech experts created a decentralized database accessible to Boro communities worldwide. This initiative exemplifies the creative solutions emerging to address contemporary challenges. Education presents perhaps the most pressing challenge. The struggle to maintain the Boro language in an increasingly English-dominated world has led to innovative solutions. Consider the success story of the modern Boro Academy in Kokrajhar, where teachers developed a trilingual curriculum that seamlessly integrates Boro, English, and Assamese. Students learn coding by creating apps in the Boro language and study science using traditional ecological knowledge as practical examples. This approach has resulted in both strong academic performance and cultural preservation. Climate change poses unique challenges to traditional Boro agricultural practices. In 2022, when irregular monsoon patterns disrupted traditional farming calendars, communities responded by combining ancient weather prediction methods with modern meteorological data. The Climate Resilient Boro Farming project, initiated by local farmers, documents how traditional agricultural knowledge can adapt to changing environmental conditions. For instance, farmers have modified the traditional dong irrigation system to handle both water scarcity and flooding, demonstrating remarkable adaptability. Urbanization creates complex challenges for maintaining community bonds. In cities like Guwahati and Delhi, Boro urban communities have developed innovative ways to maintain cultural connections. The Urban Boro Network organizes regular cultural events that blend traditional practices with modern urban life. During the 2023 Biwaizagu Festival in Bangalore, young IT professionals organized a virtual celebration that connected multiple cities, allowing dispersed community members to participate in traditional ceremonies simultaneously. Economic challenges have spurred creative responses. Traditional crafts are being reimagined for global markets while maintaining cultural authenticity. The Boro Handloom Cooperative, for example, now produces high-end fashion items using traditional weaving techniques and natural dyes. Their products reach international markets through e-commerce platforms, providing sustainable income for traditional artisans while preserving ancient crafting methods. The preservation of traditional knowledge faces significant challenges in the digital age. However, innovative solutions are emerging. The Boro Knowledge Bank project uses artificial intelligence to create an interactive database of traditional practices, stories, and songs. Elders' narratives are recorded, transcribed, and made searchable, allowing younger generations to access traditional wisdom through familiar technological interfaces. Political autonomy and cultural preservation remain intertwined challenges. The Bodoland territorial region faces the complex task of balancing development with cultural preservation. Recent initiatives like the Cultural Impact Assessment requirement for major development projects demonstrate innovative approaches to managing this balance. Every new infrastructure project must now evaluate its impact on traditional cultural practices and propose mitigation measures. Religious practices face the challenge of remaining relevant to younger generations while maintaining authenticity. Modern Bathao practitioners have begun using social media to explain ancient ritual significance to young people. Some temples now offer virtual participation options for diaspora communities, though core rituals remain strictly traditional. This hybrid approach helps maintain spiritual connections across geographical distances. The generation gap presents unique challenges. However, innovative programs are bridging this divide. The Generational Bridge initiative pairs elderly knowledge holders with young professionals to document traditional practices using modern technology. This program has successfully documented hundreds of traditional practices while creating meaningful connections between generations. Environmental conservation efforts increasingly integrate traditional Boro ecological knowledge with modern scientific approaches. The Sacred Grove Protection Project combines ancient Boro forest management practices with modern conservation techniques. This initiative has successfully protected biodiversity while maintaining cultural connections to sacred spaces. Language evolution in the digital age presents both challenges and opportunities. The development of Boro language keyboards, translation apps, and digital learning platforms has made the language more accessible to younger generations. However, maintaining the language's richness and nuanced expressions remains a challenge. Recent initiatives like the Digital Boro Dictionary project aim to preserve linguistic complexity while making the language accessible through modern technology. The future of Boro culture likely lies in its remarkable ability to adapt while maintaining core values. Young leaders are emerging who understand both traditional wisdom and modern challenges. Projects like the Future Boro Initiative bring together elders, professionals, and youth to envision how Boro culture can thrive in coming decades while preserving its essential character. Today's exploration of the Boro people and their cultural heritage reveals profound insights into how traditional societies can maintain their identity while embracing change. From their ancient migration patterns to their modern innovations, from their sophisticated spiritual practices to their creative adaptations to contemporary challenges, the Boro story offers valuable lessons about cultural resilience and evolution. What emerges most clearly is that cultural preservation isn't about freezing traditions in time, but rather about maintaining core values while adapting to new realities. The Boro people's ability to integrate modern technology with traditional practices, their success in maintaining linguistic and cultural identity while participating in the global economy, and their innovative approaches to education and knowledge transmission all demonstrate how cultural heritage can remain vibrant and relevant in the modern world. Perhaps most significantly, the Boro experience shows us that successful cultural evolution requires active participation from all generations. When young professionals create blockchain databases of traditional knowledge, when grandmothers teach ancient recipes through social media, when traditional weavers adapt their crafts for global markets, these aren't signs of cultural dilution but rather evidence of cultural vitality. As we look to the future, the Boro example offers hope and guidance for other traditional societies facing similar challenges. Their story reminds us that cultural identity isn't a fixed artifact to be preserved but a living, breathing entity that grows and evolves while maintaining its essential character. We invite you to share your thoughts and experiences about cultural preservation and adaptation in your own communities. How does your culture navigate the balance between tradition and modernity? What lessons can we learn from each other's experiences? Please leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more explorations of the world's fascinating cultures and traditions. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the rich cultural landscape of the Boro people. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep celebrating the incredible diversity of human culture.